And it's time for Lefties Losing It. And we've seen some astonishing stuff in this segment. We've heard from liars, gaslighters, the deluded, the deranged and the dull-witted. And I'm about to play you a clip that brings a lot of those elements together. Here is CNN's Abby Phillip talking to former MSNBC anchor and conspiracy theorist Joy Reid. The projection here is incredible.
Conservatives are living in a completely different information world than liberals. And breaking that down needs to be done. Because when you don't ever even hear the facts, it's hard to even know that you're wrong. And that happens a lot.
Wow. Just wow. First, she says facts. She means her demented opinions, not actual facts. And a reminder, she's been wrong on just about every consequential issue in recent years, along with Joy Reid, whose podcast she seems to be appearing on. Joy Reid, not too long ago, was pushing conspiracy theories about Donald Trump not really being hit with a bullet in Butler, Pennsylvania. She's as loopy as they come. But she's on the same side as self-delighted, self-aggrandizer Abby.
Half of my job sometimes is knowing what the latest conspiracy is, so that if it comes up, I'm ready to address it. Because it happens a lot where people don't even know that what they're saying or what they've seen and believe is not true. And so that happens a lot, and I don't come away from that saying, what's the point of this? People are just saying false things. I think that one time that person brings up something that is debunked and false, and I debunk it at the table, might be the very first time that someone out there has heard an alternative point of view.
Yes, we Conservatives really need Abby Phillip, the hopelessly biased, hopelessly wrong Abby Phillip, to debunk lies for us. Let's have a look at her recent form.
It's clear as day. The FBI put out statistics. Crime is going down. You don't have to twist the facts.
The FBI quietly comes out with this new data that shows actually violent crime is up 4.5% during that time frame.
The only person making an accusation that people are not getting what they've asked for is Trump, falsely claiming that the administration is withholding resources because of political affiliation. That is just not true.
Well, the Federal Emergency Management Agency is facing major backlash after confirming reports that a supervisor ordered disaster relief workers to avoid homes with Trump yard signs.
There's actually not any evidence linking any of Hunter Biden's wrongdoings to Joe Biden. You are incorrect. You think that Biden would actually pardon Hunter Biden, despite him saying pretty...
Yes, as a father, he would.
No.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Breaking news. President Biden has just pardoned his son.
Oh, there's so much more, and thanks to Maze Moore for that great compilation. Now to another CNN simpleton, Brian Stelter, who has launched a spirited defence of the BBC after the British broadcaster aired deceptively and deliberately doctored footage of President Trump's January 6th speech. Stelter is writing articles and a slew of typically stupid tweets claiming things like the BBC is feeling the Trump squeeze. It's a move we have seen several times this year against vulnerable media companies. The BBC is not vulnerable. It's a taxpayer-funded Goliath. It's funded by a mandatory licence fee paid by households, and it receives close to £4 billion per annum. But those sort of facts are clearly beyond Brian. Joining me now is filmmaker and commentator Ami Horowitz. Ami, more on the BBC scandal that has seen the resignation of the BBC's Director General Tim Davie and Head of News Deborah Turness after the taxpayer-funded broadcaster aired deliberately and dishonestly doctored footage of Donald Trump's January 6th speech. But despite the BBC's history of institutional bias, the British left is circling the wagons as Donald Trump demands accountability. Let's hear from Tim Davie.
We have to be very clear and stand up for our journalism. We are a unique and precious organisation. And I see the free press, I see the weapon under pressure, I see the weaponisation. I think we've got to fight for our journalism. I'm really proud of our work, and the amazing work locally, globally that we're doing is utterly precious.
Unique and precious, really. Let's hear from Liberal Democrat MP Munira Wilson, who is terrified by the prospect of what she calls the Trumpification of our politics and media. Get ready to lose some brain cells.
When Donald Trump got involved and called the BBC corrupt, that we've had these 2 resignations overnight, and we've now had his press secretary claiming this as a victory for Trump. Now, the BBC belongs to Britain, and I think we should all be concerned whether it's foreign powers or indeed domestic powers, and we know that there are the likes of Farage and Reform who would love to see the BBC destroyed. That really worries me, because we cannot see the Trumpification of our politics and our media landscape. We've seen what that's done in America. So this is a moment for the BBC to reset and restore trust.
Army, they really are terrified of any sort of accountability. And let's not forget, the BBC is taxpayer funded. Brits are obliged to pay for this leftist activist machine.
Yeah, what a grift. They pay $20 US a month for the BBC. That's more than Netflix. Okay, I don't know what that comes out to in Australian dollars, like $1,000. I can't do the math in my head. But very interestingly,
not quite.
Okay, but very interestingly, if you're blind, you get a 50% discount. I'm not joking. And if you have a black and white television, you get a 66% discount. So go figure. There are deals to be had at the BBC. Oh, God. Look, the truth is I learned so much from the BBC. For example, did you know that male breast milk is just as nutritious as female breast milk? I bet you didn't know that. Yes, because they have so much invested in men being women. They did a story on how if you pump a man with enough hormones, he will secrete milk. Oh, God. I want to poke my mind's eye out. Oh, my God. I'm sorry, I couldn't finish that. No, they're the worst. They're the absolute worst. And it's always so funny to me when my liberal friends here, they always go, American news is such BS, CNN and Fox News, such garbage. I listen to the BBC. Oh, my God, the effect reaction, it's so gross. No, the BBC is awful. Let's not forget that during the Gaza conflict, they did a documentary on Gaza, and the narrator of this documentary was the son of a Hamas minister. Look, they're awful, obviously, and there's no wonder that GB News, which is the center-right, the right outlet there, is eating their lunch. They are now, for 4 months in a row, the #1 news channel in England. It's no wonder. They failed all across the board.
Well, that's extraordinary. I didn't know that, because GB News, their resources are tiny compared to the BBC, and every household with a television is obliged to give them money, as you explained. Now, Nigel Farage, whose Reform Party is leading the polls, was also asked about Donald Trump putting pressure on the BBC. This was his response.
What do you make of President Trump weighing into the conversation about the BBC and the British media landscape? Do you welcome that, or does that concern you?
Well, if I was the President of the United States of America, if I was the person making sure that the United Kingdom had security guarantees that meant that it could be defended, whereas on its own it would be helpless, and I'd been stitched up on the eve of a national election. I mean, people talk about election interference. What the BBC did was election interference. If you put yourself in Donald Trump's shoes, I think you'll understand why, when I had a chat with him on Friday, he made his feelings on the subject known to me in no uncertain terms and not in a quotable form.
I really do want to know what he said precisely, but the British media army, the left, will try to use this to damage Nigel Farage, given the relentless negative media Donald Trump receives in Britain. They believe they can hurt Farage because of his closeness to the president. But it hasn't hurt him yet. Look at this. Reform, as you can see, is well ahead of Labor and the Tories. That could be the next British Prime Minister. But there is just this, as you touched on, this preoccupation with just how terrible politics and the media is in the US and how much more free and rational they are in the UK, as they're arresting grandmothers for tweeting memes.
Yeah, get ready to say Prime Minister Farage. The Conservative Party, whose lunch he's eating, is not the party of Margaret Thatcher. That's for sure. As the great poet-philosopher Monty Python says, it has ceased to be. The Conservative Party has been hemorrhaging voters and votes. In May they had a local election, and they were trounced by the Reform Party. And there's a sort of an exit of a Brexit, if you will, of Conservative members going toward the Reform Party. The Conservative Party had 16 local councils to defend. They lost 16 out of 16. That's just not going to do it. Yeah, and if you look at what the polls are saying in terms of what British voters want, well, far and away, the number one issue is immigration. And that's where the Reform Party shines. The Conservative Party has been echoing much of the sentiment of the Labour Party, frankly, when it comes to immigration. The number two issue is the NHS, the National Health Service. That's a total tire fire, and a tire fire not only under the Labour Party, but also under the Conservative Party. What you have to understand, certainly for our American viewers, is that the politics in England is different than the American political process, and same with you guys. Is that in their process, like the Conservative Party is more like the middle of the road Democrats, and the Labour Party are more like, you know, the Squad. They're really become far left, and it's just not getting done. And now the Conservative Party is kind of getting hip to that, and they're trying to like out Catholic the Pope, and they have a new leader, and she's trying to out reform the Reform Party. But the polls are showing the voters aren't buying it. So, yeah, it's a fascinating mix of what's going on there.
They've been burnt too many times, the Brits. The Tories say all the right things, kind of like those rhinos, say all the right things before an election, and then they get into power and they govern like they're from the left. And now that there is a reform option, as you saw in the polling, they're getting a lot of support. Now, Ami, we will get to the Jeffrey Epstein saga, but first I want to play you a clip from a drag queen named Ariel who explains her devotion to the New York City Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani.
It gives me, maybe for the first time in my life in American politics, a real sense of hope. The mayor of New York City is Zoran. To actually have a politician that I really believe in and that I feel like really stands up for the people I care about most, from Palestinians to trans people to Jews to just my neighbors all around Crown Heights where I live, who live in rent-stabilized apartments, the working families of New York. To actually have a politician who's truly standing with them, who has policies and plans.
There you go. He really cares about Muslims, the trans community, Jews. You're a Jewish New Yorker. Do you agree with Ariel there? Is Zoran committed to make your life better?
A Muslim, a trans, and a Jew walk into a bar. That's a party. Look, she was very sweet. I'm a sucker for a crying lady. What can I tell you? Okay, what was your question again? Do I feel safer as a Jew with Mamdani? Yeah, I'm going to go with no on that. I'm going to go with no. You know, it's so, and I've mentioned this before, and it bears repeating, right? So when you go to a synagogue here in New York and other cities in America, but I'll speak about New York, there's security threats. We have to pay for security to stand in front of our synagogue. And during Bloomberg, what Bloomberg would do is he gave us police officers. The police officer would go to, and they would station a squad car outside of every major synagogue in New York. And then during during Bolshevik Bill de Blasio, he took that away. He said no more police officers in front of synagogues. And then when Eric Adams came, he put them back. I guarantee you, there'll be no police cars in front of synagogues under the Mamdani regime. And put aside all the Jewish issues, Rita, let's play a game. You like games? I love games. Let's play a game called Did He Say These Words, okay? Did Mamdani say the words, violence is an artificial construction? Yes, he did. When asked about prisons, did he say, what purpose do they serve? Yes, he did. He's a madman. He is going to destroy New York City. So I don't feel safe here as a Jew. I don't feel safe here as a New Yorker. No American will feel safe in the new New York City made under the model of Zohran Mamdani.
Well, you're going to have a lot of sort of social workers doing group hugs with everybody. So maybe not as many police officers, but there'll be some alternative that I'm sure will work beautifully. Now, let's get to the latest revelations about disgraced financier, sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Let's start with these emails between discredited author Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein, who was a friend of his, where he told the pedophile that he could be the bullet to end Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. Wolff told Epstein in an email, you can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him, generating a debt. Oh, what a slimy character. Army, I just want to go to the biggest revelation, what was the headline news earlier today and what much of the media focused on. And sadly, many people don't look beyond the headline. The headlines read, Trump spent hours at Epstein's house with victim of sex trafficking, email alleges. But Army, the victim, who was referred to as simply Victim 1, with the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee deliberately withholding her name, well, the name has now been revealed, and it is the late Virginia Giuffre, who has said before her death repeatedly, including earlier this year, that she witnessed no wrongdoing from Donald Trump during their interactions. So to ask you a very lengthy question, are today's revelations another nothing burger, or is there something there that concerns you?
Oh, God, I hate that term, nothing burger. Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein, two incredibly credible people, two upstanding pillars of society. To answer your question, I went through, I sat and combed through all those emails. It took me 20 seconds. There were 3 emails. Each one was like 2 sentences long, okay? Did I miss something? We read them. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know what the issue is. He spent hours there. You know how long hours is? Hours is like going to like an event for a couple. What is days is something. Hours? And then the other email that the smoking gun that the media is talking about is he knew about the girls. He asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop. I mean, I don't know. He asked Ghislaine Maxwell to stop. I just don't see where the smoking gun is. I don't see the issue. I think actually the more fascinating part of this whole Epstein saga is how the hard right is dealing with this, right? So you have Marjorie Taylor Greene strutting her stuff in the left-wing media, and she's being hailed, right? The View loves her all of a sudden. And she's using this to weaponize against Donald Trump. She's so gross. She really is gross. She's embodying this horseshoe theory of politics, right? Right there on The View. And it's really gross, but even more gross is people like her and her ilk using the anti-Semitism is all streaming out of them, right? Where they're all the claims unsubstantiated with zero evidence. The Mossad is involved in this. Look, the whole thing is just gross. Kash Patel is a good guy, and I think if there's something there, it'd be released. There's just nothing there, but they will not let this thing go.
Army Horowitz, thank you so much for your time. Joining me now is veteran broadcaster Dee Dunleavy. Now, we love a good apology, Dee Dee, a genuine apology when someone has actually done something wrong. And Piers Morgan delivered a heartfelt apology to tennis legend Novak Djokovic for the absurd attacks he launched because Novak refused to submit to the COVID shot.
You got thrown out of Australia over what seemed to be, on the face of it, from what the media were being told and what was being reported, was you trying to bend the rules of getting into play an Australian Open without having taken the COVID vaccine. And I was actually quite censorious about a lot of people at the time. And I've since apologised to some people. I was too censorious. And when more information emerged about your situation, the fact you'd had COVID several weeks before you went to Australia, the fact that you hadn't actually done anything wrong on the form filling, the fact that in the end it became a political decision to throw you out based on likely public anger if they didn't take action. When I look back on that and reflect on that, I would like to say I'm sorry for the intemperate language I used against you, because I didn't know you. I took what I was reading and hearing at face value. It turned out to be more complicated.
Dee Dee, there are plenty of media pundits in this country who need to be lining up to apologise to Novak as well. I've got to say, I'm not one of them. I was one of the few voices defending him at that time, but some of the coverage he received was just unhinged. He was called the most hated man in Australia at one point.
Well, I'm filled with shame right now, and I hats off to Piers Morgan. I'm absolutely with him, but I, as you know, because you were on my show, I hosted a radio show at the time and I joined the pylon. Look, for me, it wasn't so much about hating Novak Djokovic or necessarily wanting a needle jabbed in his arm. It was more about the fact that we didn't want him to be seen to be getting special treatment when the rest of us were going through hell. And I remember you and I discussing this, and I do remember the first time sort of COVID came up in the news and you saying, look, we're all going to get it. Let's just get it and get on with our lives. And I remember looking at you and thinking, Rita's lost her mind. But, you know, you were proven to be right. And the reason I feel filled with shame is because we were, as broadcasters, as media figures, we were encouraged to get people to, you know, encourage them to get the jab, because that's what we were being told. Get to 90%, 98%, whatever it was, and they'll let us out of our homes. We can return to our normal lives. And so, you know, I joined in. I thought I was doing the right thing, but looking back, you know, I wish I had my time again. I did question it at the time, but I wish that I'd pushed harder.
You were nowhere near the people I was thinking of when I made that statement. I do remember those discussions, but you weren't launching into these ugly attacks against Novak. You just thought you didn't want any sort of special treatment for a celebrity and millionaire. So I think your apology is not all that necessary. Now, talking about apologies, let's discuss the ongoing feud between David and Victoria Beckham and their son Brooklyn and his wife Nicola. A source has told the Daily Mail that Brooklyn would only accept something that is considered a substantive and public apology from his parents before reconciling with them. Dee Dee, what's going on here?
Well, look, I can understand him standing by his wife. This all goes back to their wedding when he's taken on his wife's name. It's Peltz Beckham now for him. They felt, or the couple, Nicola and Brooklyn, felt that David and Victoria were planting stories in the press around them, which is, look, it is conceivable because the two of them do have a hotline to the media. But I don't know whether that was founded. It may have been happening through an agent of Victoria and David. But I don't think you can tell Posh and Bex what to do. And I also don't think you will ever win a PR war against this couple. They seem to go from strength to strength. He's just been knighted. She's got a really successful, well, I loved it anyway, series on Netflix. And I don't think you can tell them what to do. I do have a feeling, though, that Victoria, if anyone can fix it, Victoria can. She's very strong, very family-oriented. I think that she will be able to broker some sort of a peace deal, but I think it will take more time.
Now, an insider has told Page 6 that Meghan Markle was apparently in networking mode at Kris Jenner's 70th birthday party. There were a lot of A-listers there, including Mariah Carey, Justin Bieber, Hailey Bieber, Oprah Winfrey. Gayle King. And Dee, the source said Meghan was schmoozing with a lot of power players. How do you see that? Because she's copping some criticism for not wearing a Remembrance Day poppy. We covered that story first here on Monday. And it was so glaringly obvious because Harry was wearing a poppy, and obviously the day holds a lot of significance for him.
Well, definitely. And her excuse was incredibly lame. She said that she couldn't get one. Look, you can order them on Amazon. Cost you about $5 or something, and it'll be there the same day. Look, the grifter was hustling. Are we surprised? I don't think we are at all. I find their appearance at this party, look, not surprising because, you know, she could not be happier. This is her happy place. She's found her people. She's wallowing in this pit of narcissistic, self-loving people. But what about the irony here? So Harry and Meghan detest the intrusion of the press. They absolutely hated that. Get away from us. We're terrified of the paparazzi. And yet here they are, metaphorically in bed with a family who have made and built their entire empire on sharing every little detail of their lives, who have the paparazzi on speed dial. So which one is it, Harry and Meghan? These two are so insincere. And I'm not surprised by their presence there. She's just doing anything she can to grasp, but keeping herself in the headlines.
Now, before you go, queer characters have been slashed from TV shows amid a massive U-turn on woke DEI policies and initiatives in the US, with Deadline reporting that around 41% of the 489 LGBTQ characters that were on the small screen this year, well, they won't be returning, with further cancellations also likely. Dee, is this a case of the market speaking? Are viewers just sick of the overrepresentation?
Absolutely. And these networks should have seen this coming. I mean, it was one of the major pillars of Donald Trump's election campaign, was getting rid of all this DEI and all this woke rubbish. And some of these programs, they just make you feel uncomfortable in your own living room. And we don't want that. We just want to be entertained. Yeah. And if you feel as though you're being given a lecture rather than being able to just relax and enjoy a story unfolding, you know, you can hear them scratching and ticking the DEI boxes in the background. We don't want that. And that's not what people wanted. It's not what the people of America voted for. And the ratings have shown that those shows had to go.
Yeah, it's the box ticking. It's just when it's absolutely unnecessary, and you can almost see they're putting together a production by just ticking boxes. Dee Dunleavy, always a pleasure.